Welcome to Day 3 of Miami International Film Festival and our Cine Downtown Gala Series, which is sponsored by Miami Downtown Development Authority. Tonight, we are here to pay tribute to a wonderful actor and filmmaker. He joins an elite group of talented cineasts that we have honored with this award in recent years. As a director, we have shown his films Mac and Passione at previous editions of the festival. And when we saw Fading Gigolo, his latest film, we knew that the time was right. It was the undeniable moment when our honor to this artist was essential. Tonight, we also have one of the nation's top film critics with us, David Edelstein from New York Magazine, who will be speaking with our honoree in depth about his career before we screen Fading Gigolo. But first, let's take a few minutes to look at just a few of the indelible cinematic memories that have been the gift of John Turturro.
We need more heart in motion pictures. We're all expecting great things. That's the point, that we all have stories. The hopes and dreams of the common man are as noble as those of any king. You stole my story.
You're not like those animals back there. It's my nature, Tom. I get out, but somebody hands me an ice, I play it. I don't deserve to die for that. Come and get us, covered! Woo! You got a dead birthday, baby!
I love the job. How many people know this? That's why they take vacations, but it's the truth. If you hate your work, you hate your life. I like my work. I do a job for me. Every job is like a first love. I'm gonna be the Lady Lead on the swells. Go to work every day in a bow tie, tuxedo. And all the staff say yes, sir, no, sir. And then you just repeat. No, mommy is free.
Clocked in like a motherfucker, man. I can't stop listening to critics, and I can't kid myself about my own work.
I pull myself out there, falling away like a twist.
The gamut of human expression. Love, loss, sex, superstition, immigration, social protest, birth, death.
Show your blood, man! Throw it!
Yeah, just
Let me tell you something, Pandero. You pulling in your crazy shit with us, you flash a peace out on the lanes, and nobody fights with the Jesus.
Bumblebee, stop lubricating the man.
And would you please?
Dancing in the dark, and to the tune ends, we're dancing in the dark.
I am a creator! This is my uniform! This is how I serve the common man!
I want to watch you squirm. I want to see you sweat a little. I want you to smell me. And who is it? You're trying to choose something beautiful. Something about holiness.
present you with the Career Achievement Tribute Award from the 2014 Miami International Film Festival.
I have to say, I consider this a mid-career achievement award. I don't do these things to get trophies or anything. Truth of the matter is, your job is to keep the audience awake and try to tell them a story and entertain them. I'm a very fortunate person, and there are a lot of other professions that are much more meaningful than my profession, even though people, so many people see it. But there aren't awards for best moms or best teachers and best dentists, and so I try to keep this all in perspective. I'm just a person who likes what I do, and I try to keep reinventing myself whenever I have the opportunity. But I love what I do, and I don't take it for granted, and I appreciate everybody's appreciation of what I'm attempting to portray. So thank you very much.
So I'd like to now invite David Edelstein from New York Magazine to come on out, and we're going to sit down and have a conversation.
Thank you. And thank you to the Miami Film Festival for granting my request. Actually, I demanded it, to talk on stage to one of my existential heroes. I first saw John Turturro in 1985 in To Live and Die in LA. He was chased by William Peterson through an airport. You saw a bit of that. And then into a bathroom and knocked around pretty badly. He was pleading, he was wheedling, he was defiant. I thought, this guy will either be one of our best actors or one of our very worst. Because you never know from one role. Could he modulate that energy? Could he control it? He had what in Julius Caesar is said of Casca, that lean and hungry look. Hungry, affamato, in Italian, famished. I saw a lot of ambition. Then over the years, as the sensational performances mounted up in Miller's Crossing, Barton Fink, Do the Right Thing, Quiz Show, The Big Lebowski, of course. Recently, everybody, The Bronx is Burning. What a performance he gave as Billy Martin, ignored by the same body that gave Michael Douglas a prize for his drag show Liberace. And then as he moved into directing daring, hard-on-the-sleeve films like Romance and Cigarettes, Passione, and now Fading Gigolo, I realized that the hunger went deeper than I'd thought. It was a hunger to seize the day. It was a hunger for connection. It was a hunger for romance. It was a hunger for love of acting and actors, a passion for passione's sake, as a way of defining oneself in a rather cold world. And so I am not being hyperbolic entirely. I don't love all his films. There are some real clunkers in there, but John Turturro is truly one of my existential heroes. So that's what I love. So let's bring him on, shall we? Thank you. Great to see you.
Thank you.
You are in fact a neighbor of mine. My neighbor Turturro. I'm sure you've heard that many times.
Yes, I have.
In-joke. I was wondering, when I think of you writing your scripts for films that you're going to direct, I have this vision of you reading every line at the top of your voice and pacing around and getting your wife, Catherine Borowitz, who's lovely and a wonderful actress. How do you go about, as an actor, putting these films together like the one we're about to see?
Well, the film we're about to see, I was talking to a friend of mine, and this thought kind of struck me that I knew that Woody Allen, has always liked me, and I've always liked him. I thought, wow, wouldn't it be interesting if we were together in a film, and both of our different, voices together. And then I shared that with my hair cutter, who's Woody Allen's hair cutter. said, well, you know, I could be like an old prostitute and he could be my pimp. And I really like this idea. So I said, but don't tell Woody. And then he told Woody, and then Woody said, well, that's a great idea. And just have John call me. And then my haircutter actually called me up and he said, you know, Woody loves your idea. I was like, oh my God. I said, you know, could you? But it was a sincere idea. I had a feeling that we could have good chemistry together. I don't know why, but then I met him and we talked about it. And he said, okay, that's funny, that's not funny, that could be funny, you know. And he said, you write it and I'll give you my feedback. And he did. He gave me his merciless criticism. And then in the middle of that, we did these plays together, relatively speaking, which he suggested me. So I really got to know him. But this came out of really my sort of affection for him. And I've always liked films about streetwalkers. I mean, there have been so many great films, so many great actresses, from Barbara Stanwyck to Juliette Massina, to Jane Fonda, to Anna Magnani, you know, it goes on, and Barbara Streisand. I mean, and I thought, wow, this could be interesting. And I loved Midnight Cowboy when I was a kid. I always wanted to be able to see Midnight Cowboy because it was rated X when it came out, and I couldn't see it. But it was a movie that had a big influence on me because I saw Dustin Hoffman. And when I saw Dustin Hoffman when I was 12 years old, I said, there's a guy who looks like he's in my family, you know, and what's he doing in the movie? You know, I hadn't seen a person like him. So sometimes these things happen, and then I had Woody's voice in mind when I was writing this, but I kind of acted out a little bit, and now I have someone who I dictate to, and then he types it up, and then I revise it. Sometimes I'll write it by myself quietly, and this film just took on its own evolution. Woody really encouraged me, you know, to make it as nuanced as possible, and you know, I stumbled onto a few things which he thought were really quite interesting, and then I did a lot of research on it, which I really enjoyed. I did a lot of research with the sex trade, and I did a lot of research with the Hasidic world. You know, if you make a movie about sex, you have to make a movie about religion. That's too. So I feel like that goes hand in hand.
Well, you actually have a deep understanding of Jews, do you not? I mean, a theme of this movie is Italians side by side with Jews. Yeah. And I know you're married to a Jewish woman. Right. And do you think that our two tribes are sibling close?
Yes, I do. I mean, if you go to Italy, for example, you see it's a country that's very, you know, it's been invaded by lots of people, and it has all different influences there. I have lots of friends who are part Jewish, who are from Italy, because the original Jewish community that was in Italy, you know, predates Christ. It's the oldest European community besides Greece. That's before the Inquisition and before all the, you know, people came from Spain. That was a whole, you know, different tribe that came. But it's actually the original people, you know, from Israel.
So we're related.
Yes, absolutely. But you know, when I ride around the park in Prospect Park, I see, you know, black, Hasids, you know, all different kinds of people, and the movie sort of reflects that. That world. It's the kind of world that we, you know, live around. And I've always been interested in religion. You know, my choice in this movie was a woman could either be a nun, you know, there's lots of films about nuns, obviously, or a Hasidic woman or a Muslim woman, so I chose that. And it was just something that interested me.
You said before that you were very interested in prostitutes, which I did not know.
Yes.
And but actually, what's interesting about this character is he presents a kind of a blank, and it seems to me that you're less interested in the prostitute than you are in the person who is relating to the prostitute or projecting onto the prostitute.
Well, I think that's what people do. That's what they do. When you talk to people in that business, you have to be a good listener and a receiver. And so, because people are looking for a release or a connection or an escape from their life or whatever. So I thought of the guy that I play is a taciturn man, a person who is not an ambitious person, but who's very good with his hands. And he can fix things, he can make things, and I know people like that. And I know a lot of talented people who nobody knows because they just don't want to push themselves out into the world that way. And I also was thinking about the idea of, there are men who are very comfortable with women. There are men who like women, who are attracted to them, but they don't really enjoy their company. And this is a guy that does, and there are people like that. And I thought that would be something interesting to explore, that's all.
Well, he is a man who is good with his hands. There's a connection between being a florist, making beautiful arrangements of flowers, and knowing how to touch a woman. Is there not? You see them as
I think I think that can be true. That can be true. And but he's a person who can, who's aware of the other person. I thought a lot about beauty. When we see films, anytime sex or love is portrayed, it's in its perfect form. And all of us, need love. All of us need to be touched. All of us have an individuality and a sexuality. I thought, well, if you have like a regular guy doing that, that could be, sort of interesting. And people are sexy in different ways. Sometimes you get to know someone and you go, wow, that person's really attractive. I would have never known. And that's a big part of life. But in movies, you don't really get to, you don't see it that often. So I thought, it just interested me, that idea.
And that he had something.
That's right, yeah.
Because you haven't seen the film yet, you're about to, but they are quite enamored, his customers, of the... Are we to assume that he's hung like a horse? You don't really discuss that in the film.
That's kind of a really like a, it doesn't really interest me, that idea of that so much. Really, honestly, what interested me was that, people have a hunger to connect or to be touched. And you can touch a person in a lot of different ways. And that's, kind of that's a simplification of what sex can be or intimacy can be. I think the film is more about intimacy.
I apologize for that.
That's
That was very
you don't have to apologize.
My mind runs into all sorts of
That's
terrible
okay.
directions.
That's quite all right.
But you know what? I think actually I serve a social function here because I take that off the table. See, as you watch that now, you won't be thinking that. You just flew in from Italy, and you are about to go to Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about some of your other projects?
I'm making a film with Nani Moretti, and I'm acting in Italian and English. It's a film about a female filmmaker. It's a beautiful movie. It's called My Mother. It's about people's struggles, to be in this business and also be a human being, and all the compromises that you have to make. Sometimes, you're portraying life, or you're trying to capture life, but you're not living life. So that's something I did, and then I did a movie. It's his last movie, Philip Seymour Hoffman's last film, called God's Pocket, that John Slattery directed. And it's very sad, but I did that film. And I was filled with someone I didn't know, but he really, really, I guess, liked me a lot, and I really admired him. I thought he was an amazing actor. So there's two great actors that we lost with him and James Gandolfini. So
who was in Romance and Cigarettes?
James was a good friend of mine. So a very good friend, and someone I wanted to work with. Both of them. I would really love to work with both of them again.
Can you tell me a little bit about working with Philip Seymour Hoffman? How giving was he as a performer? Was he a tortured soul in his performance?
It cost him a lot to do things. And I didn't realize he was kind of awkward with me, because he kept telling me, you don't know, because I auditioned him for Mac.
He was very young, and I liked him, but he was too young for the guy who was like handicapped. But I should have cast him. There are actors, and like James too, that it costs them a lot. They have to get over their shyness, or they scrutinize, what's real or what's not real for them. And he was very wonderful to work with. He was lovely to work with, and I really liked him. He had just come out of rehab when we did the movie, so we did talk about it. We talked about it. We talked about James too. So I'm still really in shock about it.
This is, I apologize for this, but
okay.
There is something large and gray and with a tusk and ears, meaning the elephant in the room, which I guess we have to ask about. You are launching a film in which Woody Allen is absolutely spectacular, and yet he's now once more a public figure in a way he doesn't want as a result of Dylan Farrow's accusations against him. Is this something that has factored into the way you think about the film? You think about presenting the film?
No, I'm not. Listen, I don't talk about people's personal lives. I wouldn't want them talking about my personal life. Especially when I'm not informed about the topic. I think it's a film. It's a fiction. I hope people receive the film. Woody's a friend of mine, and he's been very, very generous to me. And I would work with Woody again, in a heartbeat. So I hope people can just enjoy the film.
As a film critic, I've been asked on television shows to talk about this specific issue, and what I always say is, I don't know, and you don't either.
Yeah. So, Woody's a prolific guy. He's been making movies for a long time. He'll continue to make films, and you just go on with your life. I mean, we work together, and I consider him a friend. So I really have nothing else to say about it.
Can you talk about him? Did he make the lines his own? Did he go over? I mean, I would love to know, finally, in the end, what it is like to sit down with somebody who redefined comedy in the modern era.
He was unbelievably generous to me, and he was merciless, and he admitted that. But
merciless how?
If he didn't believe something, if he thought it was silly, this or that. And he would say, think about this, think about that. He didn't tell me what to do. He always liked his own character, but I rewrote the film many, many, many times. Like every single time he would read it and he would say, I don't like this part, he'd tell me, but I think this could be really good. And he said, maybe I'm wrong. I said, but I knew if I wanted to work with him, I needed to consider what he was suggesting. And I said, well, you know what, let me try it. And I think the film really grew, and it really grew. And I think what you see in the movie between us is a little bit of our relationship and how we feel towards each other. But there were times there maybe was a line I was wedded to, and I would ask him to go back to it. But there were a couple times he said, listen, you want to improvise or change something, go ahead. And of course he came up with, zingers on the spot, whereas an actor would take him 5 minutes to come up with that line. So he's a wonderful actor to work opposite with, and he was great with all the other actors and with the kids too. And he's a good baseball player too. He's a really good baseball player, and he was a doll to work with. Once I had him, on the set, he told me, just tell me what you want. And once I got over my shyness, which took about an hour, then I would say, I want this to be a little more delicate, a little faster, be a little more serious here. But when we acted together, there wasn't much to say. We would look at each other and say, well, how did you feel? How did I feel? I didn't go to playback and do that. And I think he gave me a wonderful performance. It was
one of his best, I think, certainly in the last 25 years that I've seen.
Well, thank you.
Do you think that that there is anything was there anything that you learned from him about how to deliver a joke on screen or how to set up a joke?
Well, you know, I also worked in these plays with Woody, so I would see him like show someone, you know, how he would deliver a line. But how he delivers a line, it's just, you know, he has a comic's timing, he also has a musician's timing, and he has a charm that a lot of comedians wish they had in a film. But he can hold the screen. He has a big presence. He's a very powerful presence he has. And, you know, when I was standing opposite of him, there were times when you would just want to bust a gut or whatever. But he's very, you know, elusive, but he can spin a line a lot of different ways. And yes, sometimes it can be too much or too little. But like whenever I asked him, Woody, could you make this a little more delicate here or take your time more with it? I mean, he was, you know, he was usually right on the money, you know.
You said elusive.
Because he has something we've seen this in certain comics that we've associated with over the years, like Charlie Chaplin or whatever, but he has something that you just can't put your finger on it in a way, because it kind of seeps into you in a different way, because he has a charm factor too. You know, he's really charming, and it's hard to, you know, to get away from that sometimes.
And very vulnerable too.
That's his unique, you know, gift, and he's also such a hard worker and such a disciplined guy that, you know, I couldn't have done the film without someone like him, because we shot the film, you know, 6 weeks plus. It was really short, and we were trying to light it beautifully, and Woody was right there, ready to go all the time. And it was interesting, like the little kids didn't know who he was, you know who we were, and I was saying, this guy, you know, he's a legend, this guy. And they were like, well, you don't know anything about music, you don't know this, you don't know that. And he really loved that. It really, you know, energized him in a way. And but he's very generous off camera, and he's a real, you know, samurai in his approach to things. He's so disciplined, and it was a tremendous, you know, treat for us.
I really envy you guys. I think you're going to have a great time. I want to thank you, John, for being gracious, even in the face of some ungracious questions. And thank you for being such a great audience, and I really hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Standing here hoping to talk to John Turturro in a minute, and I might be able to get a word in with him. We are at the Epic Hotel, maybe. Yeah. John, scusami, parli italiano?
Sì, io parlo italiano un po'.
Io sono italiana e sono ebrea. Italiana ebrea.
Ebrea, sì?
Sì.
Me?
No, io sono. Sì. Yeah, una di quelle persone, one of those rare people you mentioned.
No, but there's a lot of people.
Yeah. But the movie was lovely.
Thank you very much.
You're a lovely person and a lovely actor, and it was just charming.
Thank you. I put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, it shows.
Yes, a lot of.
We appreciate you.
Thank you. Well, there's a lot of people who are Italian and Jewish who worked on the movie. So there you go.
Really? I thought, wow, I'm on the oldest Jews.
my editor, Simona Paggi, is half and half. Marco Pontecorvo is half and half. So yeah.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Grazie mille.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Grazie a te.
Grazie. Un bocca al lupo.
Grazie.